Hi, this is Snaily Snail. So someone asked if I could go over the process of buying a home, and I was like, sure. So first, I'm guessing that you already know where you want to live, and you already know that you're going to live there for more than, I'd say, 5 years or around that time, because if you keep buying and selling, you're actually losing money from transaction costs because everyone takes a little chunk each time you go and buy and sell places. So I'm just going to assume that you already know the area that you're going to be living in and you have an idea of how long you're going to be staying there. So the next part is you actually have to figure out, okay, how much house can I buy? So either you can look at the areas and see how much most of the homes go for, and then usually they have a breakdown, especially on Redfin, and 20% of the purchase price is usually how much they're looking for if you don't want to pay PMI. In this time, it's also smart to start looking at maybe some opportunities that the state might offer. So some states might give veterans some discounts, or some state might have some sort of like first home buyer like rate or discount. Those really help, and that usually is supposed to help, especially with the down payment part, because sometimes 20% is actually a lot. If you are just super wealthy and you want to pay your home with straight cash, then you wouldn't have to take out a mortgage. But for most people, I think you're going to have to take out a mortgage just because homes are expensive. So at this point, you would talk to a loan officer at a bank. We personally went with Rocket Mortgage. They had some sort of deal where if you buy a home, I think you get like $1,000 off or something. I think you can usually make an appointment with a loan officer. So when you're talking to this loan officer, they're going to ask for just basic things like, what's your income? Are you employed? And then also just like your bank statements to just make sure you actually do have money. So then after that process, they give you this pre-approval letter, and in the letter, like, it has this amount, which is how much they're willing to lend you. You should also look at the mortgage rates offered to you from different banks. So what you would do is you take the rate and how long it is, and then you bring it to another bank, see if they could beat that one, and if not, then you take it to another institution, and you just keep doing that. Because Rocket Mortgage's office is in Detroit and we don't live in Detroit, we did most of the stuff online. We went to another website called better.com or something. They gave us a better rate. So we took a screenshot and then asked if Rocket Mortgage could lower or match their rate, so that way we would go with them. At that point, Rocket Mortgage was like, okay, let me lower the mortgage rate for you guys. And then because we were working with Rocket Mortgage, they assigned us a real estate agent. So this real estate agent would take us to all these places, and the guy was just like iffy. So in the beginning, he wasn't really pressuring us to buy anything, but you have to understand that they work on commission. So they really want the sale to go through so that way they can get their money, right? At one point during the process, we were like taken aback because of how rude he was. So we contacted Rocket Mortgage like, hey, I really do want to work with you guys. It's just the agent that you assigned us, he's super aggressive. Is it okay if we keep the same company that he's working with, just get another agent? And they were totally fine with it, so they gave us someone else. She told us straight up that we were going to have to supply the homes to her before like she accompanies us to the showings. So I was like, that's fine. That's the fun part where you get to look at the homes, and usually they give you this piece of paper that has like a breakdown of like what year it was built, what's it made out of, how many beds, how many bathrooms. Most of the time, we actually did our research on Redfin. So I have my laptop here. I am going to search up Wilmington, Delaware, and then you're able to set your price here. So let's say our maximum is 1 million. Let's pretend we're wealthy. Cries. And then you can actually add more filters, like I have to have 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. And I want a house or a townhouse. And I want just active listings. So we'll just look at this home that has a 3D walkthrough. Just because it says hot home, it might just mean that lots of people are looking at it. I don't really think it means that people are like that interested. And what I do is I click through the pictures just to get an idea of what this home looks like. It's actually really nice. It's so spacious. Yeah. What I don't like already is this like weird transition with the woods. So I feel like what happened was they probably renovated the floors for one part and then they didn't do it for the other part because the woods are different. The kitchen's so nice. It has an island. I'm guessing this is the attic. What I don't like is they have carpeting because carpet's usually cheaper than hardwood floors. It's really hard to clean and you have to replace it more frequently. Yeah, I don't know what I'm looking at anymore, but okay. So yeah, it looks like a nice place. This place is massive. It's 4,400 square feet. So that's actually ginormous. So this is the principal and interest, like how much you would pay to pay off your mortgage, let's say. And then the homeowner's insurance. So that's how much you would have to pay to insure this house each month. And then property taxes, which is also per month. And then what I like is that you can adjust this. So maybe you're gonna put a heftier down payment. Yo, this has 10 parking spaces and they have central AC, electric, forced air, that's good. So the whale and I, we were actually considering moving to Manhattan, and I was looking at this and I was like, oh, like it's not so bad. Like, yeah, the price is a little up there, but we thought we could afford it. But let me show you like what I mean by you really have to look at the prices. So if you scroll down to this payment calculator, you see that the HOA dues are $3,180 a month. After you own this place, you are still basically paying rent. Like they probably have some like great services and stuff, but $3,000 a month. At that point, let's say you find a place that you really like, you put an offer in. The reason why you have the pre-approval letter and everything is because when you are going to put in an offer on the home, you're not scrambling for bank approval. So that way you can just like straight up put an offer in and then hear back within a couple days. We put in an offer and then that's when we were negotiating the price. She would send us an email like, hey, I think it's worth this much. And we would send an email back to our real estate agent saying, no, I think it should be lower. And then we kind of like met in the middle. After they accept, you have to put something down called earnest money, which is saying like, hey, I'm actually serious about this. And it's usually a percentage of the home. And that's when you can get an inspector to come in, look at the place, make sure it's all okay. I actually recommend looking at the home during like several different times of the day, because one time there was this guy who bought this place, he didn't know, it ended up being a party condo and it was just like drunk students everywhere. So seriously, like look at your home that you're interested in several different times if you're like, once it gets to this stage, because afterwards it gets a little bit harder to withdraw your application. When we bought this place, the seller was actually living in Texas, and then there was a tenant here and it was actually like really hard to coordinate like, hey, can you leave the building or something so that way we can look around. So during the inspection, we actually like tested out all the appliances. So keep that in mind too, because they're going to be your appliances. You really want them to be working, of course. After the inspector, you usually have a little bit of wiggle room to negotiate a little bit more, saying like, hey, so the tenant like broke this, broke that. We didn't notice this like huge thing because the furniture was there or something. So we were able to get a pretty big discount too on the closing costs. And that's supposed to help with some of the damages so you can fix it yourself. He looked around and he was like, okay, there's nothing like hugely wrong with your place. So I was like, cool. And then of course you have to pay the inspector, but our real estate agent paid for our inspector because, you know, after she gets her big check, she would have enough money to cover it. After we both agreed on a price, I think that's when we got a lawyer through our real estate agent, and the first guy was terrible. He was very adamant about like following the process, and it's like you only have this many days. But the problem was because our seller wasn't responding to us, we're like, well, I'm not agreeing to something if I don't get some say in it. We asked our real estate agent, hey, do we have another lawyer? And this one was so much better. And he was helping us draft the rest of the negotiations after the inspections. And there was one day where both of us were on the phone with our lawyer and we were just like walking through, okay, this is what I want, and we saw this after the inspection, I didn't like that, this other thing also happened, could she maybe do something about that? And then he would send it off to her lawyer and they would, you know, figure something out. So then we had our final walkthrough of this home. We went here, like there was no furniture, nothing, and then like that's when we're like, So because the seller wasn't as responsive, it actually came down to the wire. So we actually had to push our closing date quite a few times because of her. So in the end, there was like the title office where you're supposed to sign a stack of papers, and then after those get processed, you officially own your home and you're a homeowner now. But because she was not responding a lot of times, we actually were still negotiating while we were in the title office. I think before we were even homeowners, we had to get homeowners insurance for the place that we were intending on buying, which I felt like was a little bit weird. All my coworkers are in their 60s or 50s. So at work, I would ask them, hey, like when you were buying a home, like what were you looking for? Like what areas do you think are attractive? Things like that. So I had one coworker tell me that she didn't have a lawyer at all, but it was also because I think she knew the person that she was buying the house from. So there was like a little bit more trust. So yeah, I hope you understand the process a little bit better now. Let me know if you have any further questions, just comment down below and I will try my best to answer them. I don't work in real estate at all. This is just like all the knowledge from my own personal experience. All right, and I will see you next week. Bye.